Hello, I'm Regina Vaidyanathan and welcome to The World Today. Insulting and frankly appalling. That's the strong reaction from the UK's Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer to President Trump's claim that NATO soldiers, including British forces, held back from the front line during the war in Afghanistan. It's a rare rebuke from one of America's key allies, and the anger extends far beyond Westminster. Veterans and families who lost loved ones in the conflict say they found Donald Trump's comments deeply offensive. 457 British service personnel died in the conflict and many more suffered life-changing injuries. Well, Prince Harry has also weighed in, saying sacrifices made by NATO troops deserve to be spoken about truthfully and with respect. Let's hear from our defence correspondent, Jonathan Beale.
Helmand 2006, the most dangerous province of all. British troops fighting and dying in Afghanistan. They're along with other allies to answer America's call in its war on terror. But 20 years later, this.
We've never needed them. We have never really asked anything of them. You know, they'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that. And they did. They stayed a little back, a little off the front lines.
But the reality, many died in the heat of battle and never came back alive. The sombre parade of coffins returning through Wootton Bassett, all too familiar in 8 years of heavy fighting. Hundreds more left with life-changing injuries. And they're incensed. Ben McBean posted these photos in response to the president's comments. He says, ironically, trying to convince his parents he's fine after fighting away from the front line. Ben Parkinson was the most severely injured soldier to survive the war. He still needs constant medical care and support. His mum now expressing their anger.
It's disgraceful. It's disrespectful. These are the rantings of a child, and it's not acceptable in a supposed leader of the free world.
Over 1,000 guys got injured in Afghanistan.
Andy Reid was another casualty of a roadside bomb, now living with life-changing injuries.
The Americans asked us to get involved in that conflict, so he clearly knows that we were there on the front line, and I think he should make an official apology.
The US, NATO's largest military, did suffer the most casualties in Afghanistan. It lost more than 2,000 soldiers, followed by the UK, but the cost in lives also weighed heavy for other smaller NATO allies.
I consider President Trump's remarks to be insulting and frankly appalling. And I'm not surprised they've caused such hurt to the loved ones of those who were killed or injured, and in fact, across the country.
But I think that there is too much careless talk from President Trump. He clearly doesn't know the history of what happened. I'm somebody who believes in NATO. It is a force for good in the world.
A message echoed by others. The Lib Dem Sir Ed Davey called it a huge insult. Reform's Nigel Farage said the president was wrong. And now Prince Harry, who served there. He said their sacrifice deserved to be spoken about truthfully and with respect. Britain was with America from the start of the war in Afghanistan, right up until the chaotic end 20 years later. But instead of expressing gratitude, as of previous US presidents, this one's caused outrage and offence. Jonathan Beale, BBC News.
Well, I've been speaking to John Bolton for his reaction. He is, of course, a former national security advisor to President Trump and a former US ambassador to the United Nations. I began by getting his thoughts on the impact of President Trump's comments on what that might mean for the transatlantic UK-US relationship.
Well, from Trump, they're beyond outrageous, but are unfortunately typical. And I understand why the Prime Minister would ask for an apology. That's appropriate. Of course, he's not going to get one because this is Donald Trump we're talking about. And I should say that for any American who knows anything about Afghanistan, there's only one that would say what Trump said. One. That's it.
And Do you think this now erodes that very important relationship between the US and the UK, one that in the past you've come to the UK and worked on establishing and building even a deeper bond now? Where does this leave things?
Well, I think it's very harmful. There's no doubt about it. But I think in the US-UK relationship within the NATO alliance, I think people should keep their eye on the ultimate objective here, and that's a closer relationship that enhances our peace and security. And this is unpleasant to deal with somebody like Donald Trump. There's a lot of people in America who feel the same way, but it's something that you have to grit your teeth with and acknowledge he's not going to change. And the thing that we need to try and do is minimize the damage that he's inflicting on the relationship and look forward to the day when we can really look to permanently repair it.
There was a time, of course, Mr. Bolton, where you shared the same vision as President Trump when you worked for him in his first term. What do you think the people close to him right now are going to be saying to him and thinking? Do you think they will agree with what you're saying privately, that actually these comments are outrageous?
Well, I don't know what part of the vision I shared with him. He has subsequently said that he didn't agree with anything I advised him on, so that may be worth considering. I don't know what the people around him are saying. In the first term, there were plenty of people who would say, well, Mr. President, have you considered this or that or the other thing? Have you considered this alternative? Have we looked at the cost-benefit analysis enough here? And I think one of the lessons he drew from the first term was that he wanted instead to be surrounded by people who simply said, yes, sir. And I think he's done a very good job of getting exactly that kind of person around him.
I just want to play these comments to you now, Mr. Bolton, because it's not just politicians who were upset and angered by what the president said, but also those close to people who served in the war. Diane Durney's son, Ben Parkinson, a former paratrooper, and he was severely injured in Afghanistan. She's been speaking to the BBC, and she said that the president's comments were the ultimate insult. I'll get your thoughts in a second, Mr. Bolton, but let's have a listen.
It's disgraceful. It's disrespectful. It's hurtful. These are the rantings of a child. This is somebody who is deflecting from other things that he said, and it's not acceptable in a supposed leader of the free world.
Just wanted to get your thoughts and comments on the impact it has on not just troops here in the UK, but of course American troops as well. People served together, didn't they?
Yeah, and I think in the military, I'm sure these remarks by Trump were met with complete disbelief that he could say such things. It's one of the reasons that I've said for some years that Trump is not fit to be president, and it's a burden we have brought upon ourselves that's causing a lot of damage to the U.S. reputation around the world. And I just say again, that Donald Trump is an aberration in American politics. He's not like any other president we've ever had, and God willing, not like any other president we will have.
Well, let's hear from our State Department correspondent Tom Bateman to get more reaction on that.
And I think what that speaks to is just the sort of nightmare of disorientation that the Trump administration has created for its own allies, particularly in the last week to 10 days, as he has increasingly criticised NATO allies. We've seen this attempt to, start or threaten to annex Greenland to the United States, a crisis among NATO allies in Davos, and then Mr. Trump appears to walk back a whole load of that. But this rhetoric remains. And I think that the deeper point about this administration is it has been saying repeatedly to Europe that it believes that Europe has been in part responsible for a sort of liberal world order which has malfunctioned, which has left large parts of their populations behind, both in Europe and America. Ties all this in with the sort of free movement of goods and people, that immigration has left Europe unrecognizable, and it sees the Europeans as part of that. And we're seeing this sort of stream of insults from President Trump, of which this is the latest, frankly. But I think, it's one thing to say to the Europeans, NATO hasn't pulled its weight. We've had to do everything as the US, which of course isn't actually true either. But you can argue that's a negotiating tactic. But to push on an issue like the deaths of NATO soldiers, that clearly crosses a line. I think why you're seeing this strength of response from Keir Starmer, but that then risks a further retaliation now from the White House as well.
That's Tom Bateman there. Still to come here on The World Today. The first three-way talks between Russia, the US and Ukraine since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine.